Hello and welcome back to the Popcorn for Dinner podcast. It's election night and we are we are voting in a new president today. And joining me on this episode to talk about
Hi.
election nights in the waster world. He's my fun guy in Uruguay. It's Ebube.
They've
Ebube,
really
how are you
been.
doing?
I'm good. They've really been giving Connor some interesting ambassadorial lines lately. I don't know, was he
You
really
know
coming
what?
up with all those things on the fly?
Give me a 5 minute webisode of Connor just doing the rhymes. Just keep on doing.
What fun guy in Uruguay? Like, how did he? Anyway, the writers are too good. I think I know we praise them and stuff, but it is worth praising them specifically about certain things because Succession is so natural in its delivery that
Mm-hmm.
people really think that they do a lot of improv. And sure,
Mm-hmm.
there is improv. Many shows have at least a tiny bit of that, but it's always worth remembering that 95% of what you're seeing in Succession is written down word for word.
Yeah.
Even some of those things that feel like add ons, they're literally like extra lines that are brought by the writers as they're filming. So
Yeah. I
it's
think
like the writers are doing improv for the
yeah.
actors,
No,
and
they
so
are.
there's
Like,
collaboration.
yeah, I definitely think like with all due respect to the actors, all of whom we love, like the improv on Succession is overstated. And people think you just come in and like say like an entirely new scene. And I think it's like I mean, there are lots of stories of this of like the writers just being on set, which is why part of the
Yeah,
whole writer strike thing is saying that our job doesn't stop when we write the script. Like they're
of
on set
course.
saying,
Yeah,
"Oh, try this line, try this line, try this line, try this alt." So like, yeah, I think a lot of that comes from the writer. It's just, but again, the actors are so good that they make it seem natural and seem like it's instinctive. Um, we're talking about Succession, episode 7, so episode 8 from the fourth and final season,
hmm
titled "America Decides," which personally I think is hilarious because America did not decide.
America hardly ever has any say
Amer-
in this, but sure,
it was
America decides.
it was it's funny. I didn't realize how funny that was until my second watch. First of all, like, oh, American decides. Obviously, that's what you say on election night. I was like, oh no, 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 America didn't decide. America was imposed
They really make
upon.
you feel that way, like with the news people, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to see. We've talked a lot and heard a lot actually about how important ATN is to what these people do, what they sell, the empire that they've built. So it was cool to have an episode that's really, I mean, we don't think of it that way at first, but really this is an episode that is dedicated to how much of a power wielder ATN actually is. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they go on
Mm-hmm.
TV and like, you can see that they're in the studio, the stage is there, the cameras, the lights, the makeup, all that stuff is there. And then on the desk it says America decides. But America is not deciding anything. There's like
Not decided.
three disgruntled, unloved children upstairs that are deciding for them. So so that's hilarious to me.
Anyway, it's written by show creator Jesse Armstrong and it's directed by Andrea Perek, who we said last time is probably second in command when it comes to the directing team on
hmm
Succession. I'm going to ask you what you thought of this episode, but I'm just going to say mine now. Um, this is it for me. This is my best episode of the season. I haven't said that across the season, like, but this was it for
So
me.
now
As in,
you feel equipped to say that.
yeah, recency bias aside, I'm pretty sure this might be top 5 non-season finale episodes for me.
Yeah, I went into this one thinking something very similar because I was listening to Jesse Armstrong talk about episode 3 in
Mm-hmm.
all its shock and awe 5 weeks ago. And he was saying, like, he was being asked, what is the episode in this season that people really should watch out
Oh
for?
yeah, I remember.
And
I
he
forgot
said
about that.
episode 8. And the person was like, wait, hold on, not episode 3. He was like, yeah, I think episode 8. And he just said this so calmly. I was like, this man, he's a monster. So
I'm
I
so
had
happy
to,
I forgot about that.
yeah, like literally,
Yeah,
so I went into this thinking, wow, what's about to happen? I was half expecting someone to die, but I didn't think they would go that sensational. Still, it definitely delivered. Like this episode just had everything, nothing without even feeling forced. Like it's so amazing when they're able to jam pack everything that is good about the series without it feeling like they're just taking things off a list. It had everything
Yeah.
from, big drama moments to Kendall thinking about whether he's an actually good father, to Tom
Mm.
looking for cocaine for some weird reason, to wasabi getting in someone's eyes. I mean, like, just throwing
Uh,
things out the wazoo. It's amazing.
I mean, like, so I'm guessing you like the episode then.
I do like the episode. Yeah, let's put that on the record.
Obviously, I've been very reductive in always talking about Veep for obvious reasons, and it's a disservice to both shows. But like, it's almost impossible to like not watch this episode particularly, and not if you're someone that watched Veep. I mean, obviously, different shows, different kind of stakes, but like Veep always nailed an election episode. Like it was always great an election episode. But before we talk about the episode in depth, I want to ask you a question. Where were you, Ebube, in 2016? Obviously, the election, that's what I'm talking about,
Yes,
not
I know.
February 2016. Yeah.
I know. I was in the US.
Mm-hmm.
This was in the final semester of my. Yeah, I was in the US. I was just like in college at the time in university, and
Wait, you're
um,
investing in Florida, weren't you?
yes, I was in
Were you?
Florida.
Jeez.
Yes,
So you were right
yes.
there. Home state.
Everything that you're thinking, yes. So I was actually sitting with a friend as the numbers were coming in, and we were watching
Mm-hmm.
similar things to like what ATN was showing.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the rage. I mean, even like in 2020, I was in the US as well. However, at the time of the actual election, I just arrived in Nigeria. So
Okay.
I was watching all that stuff from there, and it was a similar experience. You have all these websites that are projecting things. For anybody who was wondering why this was such a circus, typically all the big news outlets are making projections as to who has won each state,
Mm-hmm.
one
Mm-hmm.
by one based on reported poll numbers. Some states are slower to count, so they may come in. So this whole thing of them calling the election is literally them calling the election. So
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting there watching as they called for Florida, then for Michigan, and states like New York, California typically get called fast. Everybody's always looking at states like Texas and Florida, as well as swing states. There's always something
Mm-hmm.
random, like in this episode, Wisconsin, that is just a big deciding factor. And yeah, I remember watching it and seeing the results and thinking, wow, so this is our reality now. And I don't think at that point
Yeah.
people just thought, okay, well, I guess this is going to be interesting. This could be fun. And then it was the next 4 years of it not being very fun for most people. So,
But even on that, I mean, that was also the first election that I like obviously watched.
and
And
actually
obviously I was in
paid
the
attention to,
UK.
yeah.
Yeah, I was in the UK, so I was 5 hours behind. I think I went to bed. I think I went to bed like 4 or 5 a.m. that day. Um, and I started watching it because at that point we still thought, okay, it's gonna be tight, but like she's gonna win. She's gonna find a way. Like it's just gonna happen, isn't it? So I'm watching. I remember I was playing FM. I was watching it. There were like four of us. Slowly, everybody started going. Next thing you know, I was the only one left in the room, and I wasn't playing FM anymore. I was just stuck on
You're just
CNN, like
worried.
what is going on? And I only bring this up because I remember because I was thinking of we're not gonna have time to focus on it, but like Greg and Jess's interaction was just like, so we're doing this, huh? We're really gonna do this. We're really gonna make this happen, aren't we? Like you can see that Greg and Jess,
Are worried that
I'm
they're
not like,
genuinely concerned as
yes,
to, okay, so
they
we've
don't.
actually gotten to a point where this is going to be the reality that we're creating. And
Yeah, Jess is like, you can take some time. Maybe PGN will call. Like it's like they are the ones that I mean, because they are the closest to quote unquote normal, I guess, in that well, not in that building because they're normal workers, but you get
mhm,
what I mean, of power, and they're like, they actually know what him being like president
because
means.
they've
And I
seen.
remember because 2016, man, it, watching that thing in real time was quite like
Quite the
it was quite
experience, huh?
soul crushing.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing waking up and be like, oh, Trump has won. You're like, oh wow, that's surprising. But watching it in real time and watching like,
Yeah.
because I remember CNN was doing interviews, so they do interviews with like Trump supporters, and you could hear what they were saying. I was like, oh my god. I
That
remember,
was my experience as well. Yeah, just watching it
yeah,
happen and thinking. I mean, having been in the US, maybe it was different from you because I had been seeing these things little by little, accumulating,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
building up. especially with all the interviews with Trump supporters, which are still gold to this day, because people are saying things and you're like, this isn't real, right? And then it turns out that that's actually a real person's opinions. So
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't spend too much time on this because that's not this episode. But like, yeah, I was watching. I was like, I just started, you could feel the anger that they had, that they had just experienced 8 years of Obama. They were like, we're gonna take it back. Because I remember at like 4 5 a.m. I called my brother, because my brother was in California at the time, which is obviously partly why I was so invested. He was in California, and I called him at 4 a.m. and I think I was just like, obviously he's in California, so California is mostly blue. So I was like, thank God you're in California, one, but also just like, I don't know, just watch out, because like the thing that you
Watch
knew,
out.
the thing that you knew, yeah, because like after watching those 6 7 hours
Oh my
of
God.
that, the thing that you knew was that the worst people were going to get emboldened, and I was just like, you're gonna be a tall black man walking across America, like you just nobody's saying be afraid, but just like watch out, because like those people, the worst people, and I think that's kind of what happens here.
I mean, yeah,
Mencken basically gives it.
there was a
It's
lot
more
of
than a dog
misbehavior.
whistle.
There was a lot of misbehavior. There was a lot of empowering of people who had really, really fringe ideas. There was Mencken using,
Against
well,
black
as you
people,
said,
against women,
almost
against
like
Latin.
the
Yeah,
things
so
he
yeah.
was saying in that speech at the end. It honestly just harkened back to what we heard in, I believe it was episode 8, or was it, no, was it 7 or 6 or 7 of
Last
last
season.
season, when we actually,
Or when he said H.
yeah,
When he said H had some good ideas.
literally
Yeah,
when we
yeah, yeah.
actually met him, and he was like, yeah, if I there's no reason for me to be sharing my slice of pie if you're coming in on your orange car. And I was like, I was like, what? This sounds so familiar yet so insane. I was actually amazed as to how the writing pulled that off, and the performance by Justin Kirk was wild, because this dude is so gleefully hateful and divisive and exclusionary, that he kind of just fits the bill. It's a thing where like you're laughing, but in the back of your mind you're kind of afraid, just like a little bit concerned. And that's how everybody in the episode feels.
Yeah.
They're gonna gain, sure, but they're a little bit concerned. And that's obviously the question of the episode, is like, underlying, it's like, are we going to take the short-term gain of messing up the deal that dad got to take the company away from us, over like the future of the Commonwealth? Because this person isn't just going to be president for the next 4 years. It's the country is going
Yeah.
to continue as a result of whatever happens in these next 4 years. It
But
could change the country forever.
yeah, I mean, we could just, guys, this episode is going to be a bit haphazard. I apologize. But we can start with that, actually. I think the only person that really cares about that question is Kendall.
Yeah, I mean, he's pondering it the whole time, partly because of what's going on with Sophie. And speaking of which, I like that you want to protect your daughter. You're finally listening to me. I'm glad you're tuning into these episodes, Kendall Roy. However, tell Rava if you're going to put a tail on them. Just you could have said
you have
something.
to tell her. Don't tell Sophie, but you have to tell Rava. You have to tell Rava.
Jeez.
Also, I'm sorry, that tail is terrible. If Rava is
Exactly,
spotting you, that tail should be fired.
Fully.
Rava, a civilian is spotting you. That's terrible.
Man.
No, because on that point, obviously Roman doesn't care. Roman wants to get a W whichever way
He just
possible.
wants to win.
He's
I
been
don't think
racking
he's
up
even
too many
concerned about
L's.
the deal. He just wants to make sure that like he fulfills his favor to Mencken, who is really his guy, which reminds me very much of
he
Logan.
might also be sexually attracted to. Yeah. Sorry. If you're watching on YouTube, if we just did a literal spit take.
Oh God.
Yeah, no. What was I going to say?
Mad.
No, because on that point, Shiv says something to Kendall later in the episode. She says, whatever benefit it is to us in the short term as corporate players, this is Mencken becoming president. It doesn't, basically, it doesn't like compare to the fact that Mencken is a nightmare.
This
it's
isn't
devil.
where it ends. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, Shiv, that's all nice and cool for you to say. But then literally she makes the financial decision a second later, because she doesn't, how do I put it? She doesn't take the risk that maybe Nate would be willing to like block the deal. And then obviously that would allow Kendall support them. She says, no, like I have to, do you get what I mean? Like she has to go for what she knows will benefit her, which is the deal, even though she knows it risks a Mencken presidency, after just having, like, you say this one thing, but then when you have the chance to actually put your mouth Put your money where your
I
mouth
wonder
is.
why
It's
she
just
did
like
that. Like, I
you.
wonder why she didn't just actually call. At first, I thought it was fine. Then I heard the automated voice, and I was just like, wow, what are you doing? This even helping you?
I think it's the fear. I think she has the fear that Nate might, like they might be so desperate that they'll be like, yeah, we'll block the deal. And she knows that if they do that, Kendall will support them. And obviously that fucks up her deal with Matson. So I think it's the fear of like maybe Nate them would actually agree. Anyway, speaking of Shiv, this is a Hall of Shame performance. Hall of Shame. She is collecting L's all across the board on this episode. Personal L's. Her husband said, "Is this a tactic?"
Like, man, like, not her
But we'll talk
finally.
about Thomas Shiv.
Yeah, she's
They'll
finally
have their
says
own
it. You know, I mean,
time.
yeah, we'll definitely get into it, but yeah, that just shows how messed up everyone is. Like, you hear something like that, like you hear, oh, by the way, I'm pregnant for you, and there's so little trust in any relationship in this show that you're literally like, okay, is this just a move? This is a tactic. Like,
The way he,
nobody says what they mean
the way
in
he
this
says
show.
it is,
Like, he says it with such
yeah.
vitriol. He says it with this with this air of, really, again, like, I actually don't have the energy for this. Like, his face was like,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
is this like, can you just, this wasn't a plea of like, you know, are you trying to mess with me here? You know, like, this wasn't from an emotional place. The way he asked it was more from a practical, this is wasting my time type of thing. And I think that's why I really gets her.
Huh? Is that how you read it?
Kind of, because he was, because
Okay.
he was like, okay, is this attack? Like, obviously there was hurt in it, but I
Yeah.
think about Tom in episode 8 of season 3, when
Yeah.
they're doing that role play, and she's like, I don't love you, even though, and you're not good enough for me, even though you love me, all those things. And you can see his
Yeah.
face as he's
Yeah.
just processing all those things. Like, that was hurt, and he was really talking. Like, when he talked back, he was talking from a place of just straight up, almost irritation and fear, um and kind of just wanting acceptance. But now I think he's talking more from a place of, I'm basically done with you at this point. Like, I'm sorry for those things I said, but like, I'm not sure, because before she gets to that point where she tells him about the pregnancy, the first thing she says is, the first thing she says is, I'm going to give you a chance to, I just want to apologize for what I said last night. And I'm going to give you a chance to do the same. And
Mm-hmm.
he's just like, okay. Like, he doesn't take back anything. Right. So he is definitely still annoyed. Like, if anybody is feeling bad from last night, it's both of them, but he's not feeling bad to the point yet where he wants to make any kind of apology. Partly because he doesn't understand like what she's going through with like the pregnancy and everything, and he's feeling like this whole Matson thing is going to blow up in her face. She's starting to feel that way. He's like, well, if you're not going to protect me, then I'm not going to protect you. Though Tom has no idea that
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of this series, Shiv has been protecting him. You know, she really has.
I mean, yeah, she protects him when it obviously benefits her because she's a Roy.
Hmm.
Okay, I mean, we're gonna.
Sad.
I'm trying to think of. I mean, okay, I have a question. Is Tom bad at his job?
I actually don't think he is. I think he's fine at his job. I think he obviously, being
Mm-hmm.
with Shiv has helped him a lot. Like, I was just talking about her
Mm-hmm.
protecting him. One way she did that was him actually
Mm-hmm.
becoming co-head of ATN. She did that for him. In the first episode of season 3, he was still in charge of parks and cruises. And because of what they knew was going to go down because of that, she has him transferred. She actually specifically asks Logan for that. And that's how he ends up there in the
Mm-hmm.
first place. And the way he got to top of Parks and Cruises, like the way he is when we find him at the beginning of the series, you know, he was socially climbing, sure, but he was also being very strategic, in the corporate sense too. I think he was fine at his job. I always wonder, like, he's the kind of person that I look at, sometimes when I watch the show, and it's like, I wonder how this guy is like just on a day to day basis when the camera isn't
Yeah.
on him. Like, is everybody else seeing him like Greg? Are there people who are scared of Greg who are more scared of Tom? Though that's probably the
Mm.
case now, even though Tom is trying to demote Greg in this episode. It's like, no, this, whoever that guy is, can't
I've
Greg
thought
for me
about
better
that.
than Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel like Tom is good at his job at ATN, but in this episode, everything feels so chaotic and stressful, because even like he's still kind of new to the news part of the business, but he's been doing it for long enough now. And he has good people around him, and he's just making sure that he's supervising. Like all he's trying to do in this episode is supervise, but he can't because he's being micromanaged
But
constantly, and that's why it feels like he might not be so good at his job in this one
okay,
episode.
okay, that's fine because you're smartly answering the reason I'm having the question in the first place. Because I'm like, Tom delegates a lot, maybe too much. Like
Yeah,
when Pam comes and says there's a fire or whatever, we don't know who, and he's like, I trust you. Then like 5 seconds later, Kendall is like, why aren't you covering this? Like, I don't. Tom should make a decision in that instance whether we cover it or not.
even that one confused me actually because he said, "I trust you." And her instinct was to cover it, but then he kind of prevents them from covering it because he says, "We're not sure, we're not sure." I think he was trying to avoid the propagation of a narrative that would exclude one side or be too biased. Because I do
But isn't
think
that his
Tom
job?
Tom doesn't care too much about the Republic. It's his job to
No, no, no,
report the
no, no. I mean,
news,
his
and he
job
was
as
trying to report the news
ATN
without an
is to
agenda.
report the news with a bias. That's his job at ATN.
Is that really his
Yes.
job?
Imagine coming to Fox
Is
News
that
and be
really
like,
his job?
yeah, I'm gonna do liberty and the justice for all. That's not your job. Your job is to have bigoted takes. That's your job.
That is so sad. Actually, the fact that you're saying that and it's plausible
Plausible. I
is
think it's the
sad to
entire
me.
fact. It's not even like I think it's just the truth. It's like it's what they ask you in your CV when you apply for ATN. It's like, are you um
Oh my god.
okay, so let's talk about the siblings. Um
Uh huh.
in this episode is mostly for 90% of the time it's Roman versus Shiv. Right? We knew this was coming. We saw this coming last season. For whatever Shiv's fault, I do strongly believe that she believes in this. Like she doesn't want it. It may be for sure. Maybe she's made herself believe that she believes it, but I believe she believes in she doesn't want a Mencken presidency. Not just because Roman wants him, but because she just finds him despicable and deplorable.
Yeah,
Um,
it's well documented that Shiv can't
yeah.
stand the guy.
So yeah, so it comes out between two of them, and they are playing the games probably the same way critics, I guess, of the left in the real world might even say like the left plays the game in real in real life because like the right will do all they need to do, and the left are trying to be above board every time, and then
Politically correct.
yeah, and maybe that's not how you win elections. But anyway, yeah, and then obviously the end of the episode becomes Kendall bracket and Roman versus Shiv, in which at this point, the end of the episode, Shiv is full out. She's out of this. Is everybody knows?
Yeah, because she's. sh this is something I feel like I have to say this at least once a season, but here I am again saying that Shiv's main issue is overplaying her cards due to overplaying her hand due to
Mhm.
overconfidence, and I mean the classic example of this will always be Dad, just tell them it's gonna be
Oh,
me
oh my
at
god,
Turnhaven. Pain in my heart every
that's
single time
that was
I
one of the
think about
five, by the way. Turnhaven and Safe Room are definitely two out of the five. Turnhaven, Safe Room, and Whose Side
Mad.
Are You on season one, episode 6. Those three are definitely in top five.
That's it. Just Turnhaven, and I guess that means you were really enjoying the top half
Oh,
of
season
season two
two
then,
is
because
season two is the best season.
yeah, because like turn because Safe Room is
Yeah,
204, and then Turnhaven is
I
205.
think. Look, I think from 106 to 210 might be the best run of TV anybody has ever done, ever, ever. Like the best 16 episodes. I don't know what to tell you. Or 14
It's hard to
episodes.
argue with. Yeah, it's no, it's really good. Like that entire season and a half of this show, I think is really what put it on the map
Yeah, like
because
I love the
I
show.
think Succession really starts like it truly starts at the vote of no confidence,
Yeah, that 106 to
and
210
that's what
to
yeah.
like what does he say about my father? Whatever the press conference. That was just an incredible run. Um, yeah, sorry, the siblings. Yeah, so like Shiv is out. Everybody knows she's.
Yeah, and she overplayed her
Mhm.
hand, like I was saying. And I've been asking this season, Shiv, why are you doing what you're doing? I feel like she doesn't even really understand why she's making the decision she's making anymore. Like she's siding with Matson. Why? Because she thinks her brothers are going to push her out. She was offended by what happened, when they made them co-CEOs. and she wasn't really going to say much about that. But it's very clear to me that even though she was like, they promised her like all decisions are going to be the three of us, she didn't believe
Mm-hmm.
them. So she decided to hedge her
Mm-hmm.
bets and, you know, make a home somewhere else by actually having an in with Matson, which could have helped them. She could have said, okay, I'm going to get an in with Matson in order to report to my brothers. So that makes them more inclined to bring me in on decisions because now they see me as a double agent, really, really high level
Mm-hmm.
asset that they could have used, something that would have worked for them. Sure, it could have ended up putting them all in jail, but I think at some point maybe everybody will get into jail at this point, in this show. But um, that's not how she plays it. She's essentially just like playing both sides against each other. Like she's on Matson's side, talking to him and everything. Um, Only Tom really knows, and he chooses to protect her, which shows, partly that he loves
Yeah,
her, right?
we'll touch on that. I have it in my
Because when
notes.
Roman finds out in this episode, he's genuinely surprised that he's smiling, and then he immediately stops smiling. He's like, "Huh,"
Mm-hmm.
and like Roman especially has come to hate Matson. Kendall is still kind of on a more diplomatic level, but Roman clearly doesn't like him. So the fact that she kept that from them, and they found out not from her, but in this way through her actions that are, undeniably shady. That was her trying to do too many things at once. Like it's like sis, she was doing the most. She really was doing the most, and the way it blew up in her face was wild.
I think this is the first time or the first thing that's happened between the siblings that, how do I put it, that would be personal. Like a lot of things that happen, these guys have the mindset of it's just business, right? So even like they always find a way to come back.
Yeah,
Think about when Kendall plays rape me during Shiv's meeting, or when Shiv puts out that statement, right? These are things that they're like
yeah,
that was pretty shitty. But then they're at dinner 2 weeks later because they're able to, like, I don't know, maybe it's growing up in a Logan household, they're able to like say this is church and state, um this is just
yeah. They
business, right?
can they can compartmentalize their
Exactly. But I
nastiness.
think this one, because again, like you said, Roman just really hates Matson, and the fact that she's been, this is the first time I think someone's actually like doing a long con on them, like doing actual backstabbing. Do you get what I mean? Like not just machinations. Like, and I think this one they'll be like, oh, this is actually quite personal. This actually hurts me because, like you said, the way Roman reacts, even the way Kendall reacts, is like this goes beyond business.
Oh my god, Jeremy Strong's face when he went out and
It's
did the
just,
call, and then he looks inside, and then he walks over to Greg, and he just Shiv watching that whole thing happen. That was such a
and trying to have it.
beautiful, beautiful wordless
We
sequence. That
can't.
was
I can't
amazing
keep on
acting
praising
from
Jeremy Strong
everybody.
because to be as if like what can we say? What can you actually say?
There's nothing left to say. Like the man is like he understands what he's doing. Even Nicholas Braun in that scene, I feel like at some point as he's walking away and he's looking at Shiv, he just
He
smiles.
does. He does.
He's like,
Which,
he smiles.
which I mean, let's talk about it now. Let's talk about it now because I have to my note. Shiv does the cardinal succession scene. She doesn't know about it because she hasn't been involved. But like, you don't disrespect Greg. You just don't. It always comes back to bite you. You don't. Like the moment she did
Oh
that, I
my
was like,
god.
"Oh, this is gonna hurt her in episode 9." I didn't know that Jesse Armstrong was like, "No, it's gonna hurt her in 10 minutes time." Like
Oh
you
my
don't disrespect
goodness.
Greg because he always
I
has a
know
way to
one
come back
very
at you.
specific person who I know one very specific person who listens to this podcast that's enjoying so much the fact that you just said that. Like this person is a Greg Stan. And you're right because you're actually very correct. Like when you really think about it, everybody who gets too deep into trying to mess with Greg gets messed
You
up.
have to offer Greg something. You just have to. Either your Kendall in season 2 with the apartment, or your
Hmm.
Tom in season 3 with like Nero and Spores. Or you just have to.
Hmm.
Even Logan. Logan brought Greg in. I was like, what do you want?
Yeah.
Like you just
Yeah,
cannot
literally,
disrespect
literally,
Greg.
even Logan, you're so right. Even Logan did it. Look at Kerry, for example. Kerry was like, Kerry was actually threatening him,
Mm-hmm.
and then when it came time for that like wake episode, and then she showed up at the apartment, he was there standing with Marsha, making her life very
Yeah.
hard. He was making Kerry's life very difficult, and they could have been allies. So Kerry is one example of this. Oh
Mainly shifted
my
that. I was like,
goodness.
this is actually like you don't know it, but this is the worst. mistake you could have made. Like, this is worse than anything you're doing with
Greg
Martin.
is
Like,
best as an ally.
you just can't disrespect Greg, because he is so spineless that he will turn on anyone in a second, which actually leads me to a point. Tom is in trouble. Tom is in serious trouble because I don't know what he's doing. I don't know if he's
Yeah, I mean, Greg has been pulling away from him for a little while now.
Yes, and
so
he's, and not just pulling as in from a tactical sense. He's actually being rude to Greg. Like, he's been going on before this episode. Like, even I think what was it during the week when he was cracking jokes about Logan's death, and then Greg said something. And he was like, "Come on, Greg, like, be smarter or be wittier," something like along those lines. And then obviously
and then
him
trying to demote Greg in this episode,
eviscerating Greg's date in the first episode. And her bag.
Yeah, that one. Well, to be fair, that be Loki brought that on herself, because what are you doing with that bag? Like if plebs like you and I know that bag is not appropriate for that situation, I'm sure everybody who watches this show was just like, what is she doing? Like, she literally looks like she came to a yard sale and was just trying to pick things up. Like, it was so weird. But then even in this episode, as like I felt that, like, I liked that the camera lingered and there were actual pauses when he's like, get me coffee, and then Greg's face, he's just like his face is like, really, man?
He's like, I don't do that anymore. And I was like,
and then he has to say that out loud. He said, I don't do coffee anymore, Tom. And he's like, yeah, but like, I mean, for me, you're gonna do like whatever. Like, I know there's all this stuff that's going on. He pulls a Kendall Logan. It's like, yeah, all these continents are depending on me. Blah 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 blah. And
he forces Greg to do cocaine.
To have my caffeine. Yeah, forcing him, that was not it. Like, I'm just gonna say, I pray for Tom. I pray that he finds the mercy of Greg, because we know the funeral is the next episode, and a whole bunch of things will happen.
Yeah, I don't think he will. I think Greg is gonna betray him. I think all this is building up to Greg betraying him. Which actually, it's funny because I was gonna start this segment with reciting Tom's quote to Greg last season finale, which was, "Who has ever looked at you in this fucking family?" And Tom is not heeding his own advice. Should we rewind a bit and go back to the siblings? So, even though I disagree with the reasoning, although there's a slight chance that it might help Ray Sihon win an Emmy, I don't think, like, if I was their campaign manager, I wouldn't tell Sarah Snook and Kira Culkin to be in the lead actor and lead actress categories. But I understand it. You can't not watch this episode and also the last episode and not understand why they had lead actors.
It crossed my mind too. It crossed my mind too, especially, in fact, it specifically crossed my mind when Roman went over to Menken's camp.
Yeah.
That was when it crossed my mind first, like, in this specific episode. That's when I was thinking, oh yeah, this guy is definitely, like, it makes sense that they're putting him as lead actor in this season. Sarah Snook's work aside, I mean, what Kieran Culkin has just been doing this season, especially since, that conversation with Menken on the mountain.
With Mattson,
Yeah. With Mattson on the mountain, that has been so much of, like, just emotional back and forth. Roman's quiet implosion that is definitely still coming, right? Like, if it's not even happening already. Like,
I think it's like a volcano.
I think it's like
a volcano. I think it's already started and it's gonna probably erupt. Do you know what Roman is doing next week? He's giving this speech at his father's
eulogy.
He hasn't grieved.
Like, that's honestly the writers nodding to us. Like, last week they were like, okay, yeah, if nobody's gonna take it, I will take it, and then they show us this, almost as if to quietly say, yeah, just get ready for next week.
But you're right, this has been coming. This is not like, there's nothing here surprising. The Norway episode was what, episode 5?
5, yeah.
Then what was 6?
Living Plus.
6 was Living Plus. So he didn't really have any, like, oh no, what am I saying? He fired people. Yes, he fired people.
He was on a firing spree, bro. Like,
and then 7,
that was just the beginning.
And then 7 was, so like, this is going. It's like, it's just ratcheting up.
He lost it on Connor.
And then today he basically made a demagogue president. Because he made him president. This is not like, I cracked a joke about crowning, but like, they crowned him. They said, we are giving you this state that has not been called, which means when we call all the other states, mathematically you would have to be president. There's nothing else we can do about it. So like, PGN is probably like unconclusive, but then ATN and all the right wingers to their right are like making his president because ATN has called. Was Michigan, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Was it
it
was it
was
Michigan?
Michigan.
Yeah, I think it was.
It
Anyway,
was.
okay. So let's talk about Kendall and Shiv's journey across this episode because I think they have a very interesting journey. I think the siblings have always had different points of being close to one another, right? The moment when Roman on the yacht finds out that Kendall is going to be the lamb, and he says like they share that sequence like, "Are you okay? Like, are you fine?" kind of situation. They've had little pockets, but I think the ones that have always had maybe extended periods of actual familial relationship is Shiv and Kendall. Obviously, what comes to mind is safe
Mm-hmm.
room when he hugs her and says it's not going to be me. Um, and then this episode, it starts with the first time is when she's just Tom has just Jesus Christ, Tom, man. Tom, you know, God, Tom. I don't want to talk about Tom yet, but like, if you're, I know for a fact that Tom is staying up at night because what he said is like destroying him. Because Tom is not about that life; it's destroying him. And then if you're Tom and she tells you I'm pregnant, and you have to remember that what you said to her the night before, because it's been less than 24 hours, and you have to at least try and take some of it back. Anyway, she comes straight from that to her brothers, and then Roman cracks the joke as, "Do you want us to kill him for you?" And I think
Mm-hmm.
Kendall is like, "Don't worry, we have your back," very earnestly. Then obviously they are the only ones that are kind of like they're the two that really don't want Mencken to be president. And then the other sequence where Tom calls her hysterical, and then Kendall rushes at Tom and is like, "Hey, watch yourself." Then you have the "you're a good person" scene. So like it's just those three scenes. It's kind of like a short story of just them being good brother and sister. And then Kendall, like I don't want to be one of those guys that has a Kendall fan cam, but Kendall is like, I'm gonna be honest with you here, like I've thought about it being just me, and this is the most honest I've ever been, but I don't want it to affect us as a family. And then he finds out that she's betraying him. Like, yeah, that's just I don't know that the journey they go on this episode is just incredible to me.
It just a weird turn of events, like the domino effects of all the stuff that was going on, like with not just them, but like everything around them was so well placed because they are getting to a point of honesty. He even
Mm-hmm.
requests one of these, which I don't know why they can't. None of these people can just say
I
hug,
can't say the word,
but
man.
they just can't do it. But yeah, he requests one of these, and then they do it, and he's actually feeling like they're protecting each other, like they are aligned.
Mm-hmm.
And then she does this, like she really, even if it was, she could have just called Nate and tried to do this, all these, you know, like word mishmash that doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything, hoping
Mm-hmm.
that he'll do what she actually just wants him to do. But why not just make the call? Like you could have, for him to call Nate, right? For him
Because
to call Nate and then say, and then like they would now be saying something like, yeah, I didn't get any call from Shiv, da da da. Like it just that doesn't make
no,
sense.
it's actually
If I were her,
genuinely
as soon as he said I'm going to call Nate, I would have
mm.
immediately started dialing Nate's number.
or I've texted.
Like, oh Nate, Nate called me back, and then
It's like I don't know how to put it. It's just a clear example of Shiv not being smart. There's no other. And look, I'm not the person to say this because I think Shiv can be really smart at times. I think in terms of politics, she's very smart relationship. But like, there's so many because Kendall knew Nate before you. Kendall has Nate's number. Like, what are we doing here? Like, you can call Nate and tell him, look, Kendall's gonna call you. Maybe lie to him that you guys can do something, make him feel good, or you can call Nate and like, look, we're in trouble here. We kind of, if you want your guy to be president, you have to kind of like at least lie to us that you can do something, or you can even talk. Can't make
the stress in your face
so
is
bad.
exactly what I'm
It's
talking
just
about.
so bad. It's like so dumb, Shiv. And then the way
As
like
soon as
she
he walked away,
she notices that was about to happen, and Sarah Snook's
and she just
face
keeps
falls,
quiet.
and she's still talking to Roman, but like her brain is
Why? I
somewhere
was like,
else.
why are you talking to Roman? Call Nate
tracks-
right now.
She tracks Kendall walking across the room.
No, the way they did that was so good. Like I don't even know where were the cameras. Anyway,
Oh, and then
forget
she
the
starts
technical aspect of
stammering.
it. Just
when she starts
She's the
talking, I was like, "Oh,
stammering,
you're
and then he's like,
trouble."
nah, 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 nah. Like,
And I was
why?
like, "How can you have her father and her brother mimic her back-to-back seasons? It's so unfair."
Is it unfair when she's literally setting herself up for this? Like, you're not helping yourself. You're just
Twitter is
not
going to be
helping yourself.
so rife when they see this scene because because
Yeah,
because
it's actually this whole thing. Like, I love this this general privilege of getting to actually see this show days before it comes out. But then I'm watching it, I'm thinking of all the people that I know and love who would be losing their minds watching this episode, and I can't say anything to them, and I just have to hope that on Sunday they feel what I think they're going to feel. And usually I'm right.
yeah, because the problem is that scene, that "you're a good person" scene, is such a great Roman and Shiv scene. Sorry, Kendall and Shiv scene. It's like
Hmm.
it has quote unquote all the feels. Like it's like
Yeah,
she's telling him like you're a good
you're a good
person,
guy.
whatever. Like everybody's
Hmm.
being honest. Like Kendall is in his peak soft boy era. He's been like is confiding with his sister. Like everything just works, and then you have that final scene. I'm just like, oh my god, Siobhan. She has 2 episodes to try and redeem herself. Um,
Is there even hope?
okay. I mean, I think she can't be at this level. She can't be too low too quickly. Like there's still two
I would hope
episodes.
so, because I mean, based on that, she, she hasn't even had time to deal with the fallout from that follow up conversation with Tom yet. Like, that's still a
Yeah,
thing. That's like, she has to deal with what happened at the end of the episode. But then there's also the stuff with Tom, and the fact that, like, from right after that point, she and Tom are just like passive aggressively interacting throughout the episode.
Tom is walking
Like,
out
for
the room whenever she.
yeah,
I think Tom is embarrassed about what he did. I genuinely think he feels.
now that he knows, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Now that he
and
knows,
his response to her like saying is he a tactic? I think Tom, everything about Tom, all the meanness about Tom. I was gonna say it's all fake. It's not, because he's a mean person. But I think he's also like innately not a mean person. He's still a bully, but I think he doesn't have like the meanness that the Roys have. Like he can't just say. He doesn't have the tongue that the Roys have. Like Royce can call you the worst possible thing. I think, doesn't Roma literally say we can all say terrible things in this episode? Like they can call you the worst and it will affect them. But I feel like Tom, if he says it, it will affect him. But that's not
yeah,
to say that he's a good person, because he's not a good person.
he's just not built like
Um,
that. Even though he's bullying people throughout the episode.
Shiv saying, "Do you find me attractive, Gregory?" I'm kind of as a W.
No, no,
It's not a
no,
big
and I
W.
don't want you to do that, because as soon as, no, when they walked into that room, I was like, I know you're not about to validate Bankole. Please, 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 please do not validate Bankole. And then I heard
It's
her say what she said, and I was just like, wow, now I'm gonna have to come here tomorrow and listen to him just
it's the
enjoy
best.
himself.
Is the best case of validation I could get. Like you
You're
can't get
still
the
wrong.
full one. Yeah,
You're
I'm
still wrong.
wrong, but like at least she even went there. Like the fact that she went there is good enough for me. Okay, I have on my notes Mark Ravenhead's impeccable Tucker Carlson
Tucker
impression.
Carlson, yeah.
Impeccable.
They say, wow,
It was
look at
so
discount
good.
Tucker Carlson dial to
It was
11. That's
it
nice.
was so good. The way he was shouting, the way he's trying to be sarcastic, it was such a good Tucker Carlson
The
impression.
pointed nature of it, the random the random comparisons to things that have no relevance, the
What did he say?
oxymorons.
They'll come and tell your son that he's your daughter, or vice versa.
And I was like, oh wow, you got here really fast. Like, you might have actually even gotten here faster than Tucker Carlson. Well done, Mark.
The problem is that
Well
it
done.
doesn't even require much creativity from Jesse Armstrong's part. That's the problem. Like he
Yeah.
can just turn on Fox News any random day and he'll find
And this is
something to
one
put.
week after the actual Tucker Carlson has been fired. Like, they couldn't have timed this better. Like, this is too good.
Couldn't.
It's too
It
good.
couldn't. I loved Kendall's line of maybe the poison drips through, and then
Yeah.
like the way Shiv just immediately rejected because she's like, no, I have a child inside me. Like I do hope the poison does not drip through.
Yeah.
I really like that because like that Shiv's
She said it
reaction
not
takes a
just for
whole
his
different
sake,
meaning.
but for his too, but for hers as well.
Yeah, yeah, it takes
and
a
I think
different
it's-
meaning when you know that she's pregnant.
Yeah, because it's not just her trying to comfort him, it's her not wanting to believe that is the case, like you said. And on some level, like, if the poison did drip through, who would it drip through? We don't know. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell which aspects of him would get through these children to the grandchildren, right? If the poison drips through, I don't know. I'm always worried for Iverson and Sophie, right? But hey, at least there's Rava, right? But like in Shiv's case, what would actually happen? Like we don't know what's going on.
Okay. As we wrap up, let's talk about Tom and Shiv. Let's just quickly run through Tom and Shiv. I mean, we've kind of already
Hmm.
touched on it in part, but they have that one big
Yeah,
scene, and then they they kind of avoid each other the rest of the episode, and then Tom says, "Shiv, you're hysterical." Oh my! So obviously, I'm an acting nerd, and when Tom is like Shiv, 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 and Shiv like looks at him, pauses, and then says "what" in such anger, it was
and
just
Kendall's like, watch it,
it was like, oh, the way kind of was like watching. I was like, oh my god, okay, Big Brother,
like know
step
your
in.
place.
Yes. um. So Tom did not get tired of last night. He comes and tells
Hmm.
Shiv, "You sort of killed your husband. You kind of killed your dad," which is incredible.
Like you didn't. That's what I'm telling you. He's not feeling remorse yet. He's not.
Incredible, Thomas to say.
And he's definitely not at a point where he can express remorse because yeah, he's still
Yeah.
saying worse things.
Oh, I mean, a little W that I kind of gathered from that scene as well when he was like, I mean, you kind of hated your dad. Because that was kind of what I was saying the other day. I was like, well, why are they overreacting? They kind of hated him. It's a bit too much.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a fact. I mean she said during the fight on the balcony that he took away the last few months she could have had with her dad, and I was like, are you dumb? Like James and I didn't really get into the specifics of all the things they were saying
Mm-hmm.
right
Oh,
at
no,
that
you
moment. But
couldn't. You
when she
couldn't.
like yeah, because there was just so much. But and we did pick some lines, but just to talk about that specific one, like this, you took away the time I could have spent with my dad in these final months. You are a liar. Not only did Tom not do this, you did it to yourself, and you were making sure your brothers did too. Like Roman was getting side eye from you just for texting the man.
Mm-hmm.
You chose to not see him. You chose to not talk
Well, I
to
guess her
him. Like
justification is that Tom, because her and Tom were on the out, Tom cozied up to Logan and then kind of
yeah, but
pushed
that
Shiv out.
but Tom's actions were results of Shiv's actions, not the other way around. Whether or not like Tom trying to advance business wise and
Mm.
getting close to Logan doesn't stop Shiv from interacting with her father or even arguing with or hating with her father up close. You
Mm.
know, she
Fair. Yeah.
chose to make
Oh,
that a
I mean, yeah, it's
cold,
bullshit.
distant
Yeah.
battle.
Yeah.
So yeah, him so him you that kind of turning that on his head to say you killed him, is
And the way
interesting
he
to me
says it,
because
it's just like, well, you kind of killed
yeah.
him. No, no, you don't say you sort of killed him. Oh my god. Um.
It's like just as a matter of fact, since we're being honest here, I might as well just point that out too.
Yeah. Maybe we'll finally. Well, I mean, it's the next day. They told us that the funeral is the next day, so at least then he'll have some time to maybe reconcile everything. But also, I think it was PGN that was kind of putting the blame on him for the whole Menkin thing because his face was up on the screen, wasn't he? At
But
the
yeah,
end of the
that
episode.
was that was a PGN thing,
Yeah.
and he didn't even let Mr. Wasabi do his retraction and his explanation. Even like I knew they were going to cheat that guy, and I just have to say, um, he was portrayed really, really, really well by Adam Godley,
Mm-hmm.
who he's like just a really good British character actor. We've
Yeah.
seen him in Breaking Bad as Elliot from Grey Matter. We've seen him in Suits as
I don't
Lewis's
like the fact
counterpart.
that whenever I see him first, Suits comes to my mind first, not Breaking Bad. I don't know
It's
why.
definitely Suits comes to my mind because that's where I saw him first, I guess,
Maybe
me
that's why. That's why I
personally.
saw him first as well.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, he's been in a bunch of other interesting. He was also in Charlie and Chocolate Factory, of course. So
Which one? As in
um,
2005?
the 2005 one,
Oh, I mean,
yeah,
what am I saying? Of course, it's 2005. Sorry.
yeah.
Yes. It was like
so
what?
so yeah, just seeing him here doing an American accent, getting very frustrated by everyone around him was too funny. Like
So he's
everything
like an
going on, and he
independent
still gets
person, right? Is
yeah.
that his role?
In no, that's his role in the company. Like he's their person who he's basically their analyst. He's their projection
Oh, so he
analyst.
works for ETN.
I assumed he's the ATM person that handles polls and election
Oh,
data because they
I thought
have
he was
someone
like
like
an
that. Because
independent person.
no, because they talked about how Sid used to wear like very specific shoes because she knew it was going to be a long night. And then
Yeah, yeah,
when we first see this guy, the camera is actually doing a wide shot, which is
yeah,
obviously is kind of rare for Succession, but they're doing a wide
yeah.
shot to show that he is also wearing
And
comfortable
Tom
shoes
is like, those
because
are nice. Yeah.
yeah, because this is not his first rodeo. So I assume
Mm.
he's their
I
basically
don't know why
their
I thought it
guy
was like
for
an
this specific thing.
independent company that probably throws people at different news stations just to make sure things are above board, which obviously they're not. But
Yeah,
I guess
they're
it
not.
makes more sense that he
So
might be.
yeah,
But
I
I don't
assume
think
he's in house.
Yeah, because but they don't have control over, like, not like Roman is like, I can't tell you what to do, that kind of thing. Like, I think he kind of maybe
Yeah,
has like
because
a
I
bit
think
of
that
an
was like an
autonomy
ethical
in
type of
house.
thing. I think I thought I thought that was more of like an ethics thing. It's like, you know how I can't tell you what to do, but I want to tell you what to do, but you know what I want to say that you should
Yeah,
do.
no, no, I
That
get
thing
what you
that
mean,
you
but
think, yeah.
as I mean, as in, like, I don't think like Roman, ethically or not, can tell Tom do this, but I
Hmm.
feel like he can't, like, yeah, if he came to like a deposition, he can
Just
say
for
I
the sake of
told.
face value.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, should we wrap up by talking about Connor? Did you see Connor's slogan? Connor Roy. Enough already. Did we
I
know that before
actually
this episode? Did we
we
know that that was
didn't.
the
I think
slogan?
that's the first time we've heard it, and the first thing that came to my mind when I saw it was that video of him that they were watching on the iPad where he said, "Knock knock, who's there? Uncle
Oh,
Sam." And where's his hand in my pants? He's been running on this idea of the
that was season
elites are
two as well.
taking
Was it? That
over.
was season two. That was season two as
Um,
well.
that was season
Yeah,
2, yes.
season two.
So Connor has ironically this whole time been running on this idea of the elites are lying to you when he is the elite of the elite. Like
What do you say? I'm a
he's
billionaire.
watching the
Sue me.
elites in their penthouse from the penthouse of the penthouse, and he's coming to tell regular people. I can't imagine any
uh,
actual normal people voting for Conor Roy. I feel like it's just people who are fans of the Roys that have like money, or but then again, like there aren't that
but he
many
didn't
people.
get any electoral college. He didn't get any college votes. He
That's
didn't win any
that's the
states.
funny thing. So it's like who's trying to like make him president, because we know he had at least 3 or 4 million people, and him holding on to that quote unquote slice of pie is a
Hmm.
very usual thing it's a normal thing in American
Yeah,
politics.
yeah,
Like
yeah, of
by the
course.
time the debates come around and they show everybody's percentages, like most of them are not higher than 5.
Yeah.
He's holding
Okay.
on to 1%, and
So he
clearly that's enough
becomes.
to sway the election.
So he becomes ambassador to, well, becomes ambassador to Slovenia or Slovakia, one of them.
He
Can't
didn't
remember
want
which
to
one. It's
mess
one
with
of
the
one of
slows.
one of the slows. But why? Why does Mencken give this to him?
Wait, I thought it was Oman. Why did you give it to him?
No, no, yeah, Oman was the last week. Like, why did they agree to the deal this week? No, it was slow because they were like, because she was like breakfast in Dubrovnik, and then they said some other places. So definitely Europe.
Dubrovnik is in Croatia.
Yeah, so they were like, because they gave other countries. I think they were like, we can travel different
Oh, so
places
they chose.
for
I
meals.
see. Okay,
Yeah, I
that
can't remember
makes
what they
sense,
said
I
for
guess.
lunch and dinner.
Yeah, I do remember. I do remember them saying that. And I was thinking, I actually wasn't sure it was a done deal. I guess that's why I'm sounding the way I'm sounding, because from my point
Roman
of
made it
view,
seem
it's
like it was.
okay. Because I thought, because obviously Roman yelled at him last episode, and Connor
Mm-hmm.
said, "No, I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
stick to my guns here." And then they're watching TV in that sad sequence in Connor's camp, and
Mm-hmm.
he has to turn it off because they was like, "Yeah, we can just get Kentucky," and right before
The
their
one
eyes, they
state that they
don't get
wanted to win.
Kentucky. Yeah, so I, it's funny because like I thought maybe the offer wouldn't be on the table. I thought maybe they'd kind of give him a hard time about it. I thought even like I knew he'd get it, but I thought they maybe like
No, but
make fun of him
that's
first
what
or
I
whatever.
mean.
Yeah,
The
so
offer shouldn't be on the table because like
yeah.
the polls have closed. I
I
understand answered
assumed
the
it
night
was because
before.
like they don't need you anymore. Like he is won. This was like, oh,
Yeah,
help me win, and in exchange I'll give you this. But now I've won
exactly.
without you. Why do I need to give you anything?
So Rome, because he says I can concede in favor, like in the direction of Mencken, which doesn't really make sense to. I don't know how you can do that. But then Roman
You
says
can.
that Mencken wants to keep the momentum going.
Yeah, he can definitely
I,
concede in that way. Like because he concedes before the election is done, right? Which then directs everybody who voted for him or who would have voted for him to then even if they've already voted, direct their support towards Mencken. Partly because
but
they're in
that
the same
support is
party,
not
because
real
they're allowed.
though.
What's
Like
not real?
it's not. It's the support. They're not votes, are they? They're not like just. It's just. It's
Yeah,
like
not
sending
all.
peace and love.
Yeah, basically, but it does help because that alignment of ideals and the alignment of ideas does actually help with control when it comes to government.
Yeah, but it seems very little to get for Slovenia. Do you get what I mean? Like
Well, we know Connor would have
that's
been
like.
fine anyway. Like this is a
Oh yeah,
side
of course they
project.
will always be fine.
Yeah, this
That's
is a
not.
side project for him. So I don't think the size of what he gets is good. He just wants it to sound kind of cool because
Oh no, me, I'm wondering why
yeah,
Mencken offered that because I'm like Mencken, Slovenia is too
maybe
big to offer for like
to throw him a bone, maybe as a favor to Roman.
maybe because he's gonna be throwing room on a bone later. Um,
We'll see.
okay, I love the uniforms because when they showed like ACN anchors, the ATN anchors, I was just like,
Mhm.
that is it. Like, it's the blonde woman in a red dress. I was just like, that
Blonde
is
woman in
it.
a red
Like,
dress, like they really. I was like, this could not be any more hilarious. 'Cause if
even
you watch enough
even
of this
Willa
election
was
style
wearing the
content,
red dress. I was like, this
Willa
is so
was
perfect, man.
everybody was dressed for the parts. It was so well.
Mhm.
Even the voices, like the voices of their pundits, were actually so well done too.
It's so good. It like Ravenhead
This could
sounded
have
like
been
talk,
real.
and obviously we've seen him before, so like it's fine. But like to get an actor just to come in one day and do this, I'm just like, oh man, actors are so incredible. Um,
Yeah, because I mean, for like for this season and for actually more than just this season, they've had quite a few political consultants on the show,
mhm, mhm.
and yeah, one of the main ones is definitely what is it? I think it's Elliot Schultz or something like that.
Oh yeah, they gotta work
Um,
for Obama.
yeah, he
Hmm.
said that they asked for that the writers are so good and the production team is so good on this show that he wasn't prepared for the amount of detail that they came for, right? Because
Hmm.
he said, "Oh, they'll ask him, oh, what did this, what might go on in this conversation." And then they tells them, and then they go, and then they come back. It's like, okay, what would the outcome of this particular interaction be? How does this affect this part of government? And he goes and tells them, and then they come back again. It's like, okay, what kind of vests do the dogs wear? And he's like, I don't know. Like, I have to go check and do some research. Like, and you can see that they've really put all that thought in, right down to the thing that almost messes up the entire night, being the touchscreens are not working. I was like, of
That
all the
was,
random things to go on right
but it's
now,
not
how
even
did
that
they not have the
random though,
best?
because
Yeah, it's it's
but
it's
we've
ran-
seen it
it's a,
happen. We've
that's
seen
the
it happen
thing.
on CNN and
It's random enough that it's real enough, which makes it
yeah,
make sense. And it's just cool to me how Succession always does stuff like that. Because how do they not have the best touchscreens available that money can buy?
well, they said they have three. They said this always happens, so they have
Yeah,
three, but then
they were
two
prepared,
packed
but
up,
I
so they
guess
had only one left.
yeah, that's just bad luck. That's such bad
Um,
luck. Now they watch now they're gonna have five for next time, assuming
mm,
anybody
mm.
still is
Well,
still around in 4
yeah,
years.
like next time, who knows? Who knows who'll be in charge of ATN next time? Maybe PGN will reverse Viking them and
Like
pillage
joke,
their
Greg will be
village.
in charge of ATN in 4 years. The way things are going,
Oh
even
my
the fact that
god!
they made a point of mentioning in this episode how Greg and Martin have a bit of a relationship now.
Yeah. Oh, I
Martin
mean,
himself was saying it. He was like, and then Shiv was like, Greg, huh?
yeah, he was just like he was there as a normalist or whatever. Because I did
Normalist.
the
What
bonus
on earth is
episode
that
with
word?
with Haja and Ibuka, and Ibuka was like, "Oh, like, would Greg be okay if the Swedes hate him?" I was like, as long as they don't think he's worthless, he's fine.
Greg's
Like they
role is
can
to
think
provide
he's
value,
just
and he's
yeah, he can just be meh.
yeah.
Like for like, actually no, yeah, it's just like they just want like I don't know how to put it, but like Greg is so bad that he's good. Just like yeah, you almost forget that he's there, and then like if, despite how tall he is, and then eventually you're just like, oh, I'm asking Greg to do this thing. And he's like,
Uh,
why is Martin confiding India numbers with Greg? Why? Oh my god, man!
Greg
What a
the
show!
egg
What a
man
show!
turning into
Two
Greg the
episodes
chicken.
left.
He's
Well
getting
done.
there.
2 episodes left. Next week is the funeral, and then I think episode 10. I mean, no, I know episode 10 is the finale, and I think Kendall. I think Jeremy Strong was like when they finished, they were in a tropical location.
Hmm.
So I guess we have another trip on the cards.
Or are they just gonna
Um,
be on a boat discussing life again?
Probably not. Probably not. Probably. I mean, so they probably go somewhere, Italy, somewhere. Anyway, next week I'm assuming we'll see all of them, all the guest stars, Eowyn, Caroline, everybody, Marsha. So that should be very fun. That should be very fun.
Yeah,
Like it's one thing to be Logan's funeral, and then another thing to be the penultimate episode of the
exactly.
season and
And
of the show.
I'm
Like,
just
ugh.
thinking about these episode titles. Like what could they really be telling us? I know people are making. Some people are thinking too deeply about them already. Or maybe just deep enough. Who knows? Like maybe they know something we don't. I saw like a
Mhm.
Collider article earlier today that was saying something along the lines
No
of
free ads.
oh yeah. I They were saying something along the lines of like the final episode title may be like a clue about how it's going to end, and I don't know, you can't really predict how these people are going to go. Like they're good enough that we can be sure they'll surprise us somehow.
Yeah, but the title is from the same poem that like
With
seasons
that
one,
all the
two,
season
and three's
finale
finales come
titles,
from.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
with
all
open
from the same
eyes,
poem.
right?
So I don't
Next
know the
episode
name.
being titled Church and State is also
Yeah,
interesting because like clearly there's going to be some kind of division there. At least we can predict that,
and
especially
then
since
is
we
that
know the
is
funeral's
a
coming.
funeral? Yeah. Anyway, okay, we'll be back next week. Guys, look, we just go every day. We close our eyes and we cross our fingers and we're getting the screeners. Our luck seems to be going on, but I don't want to be
Yeah, I
Doctor.
almost thought we wouldn't get screeners this week just because of what Jesse
Yeah,
Armstrong said
so
about episode 8. So who knows?
I mean, I'll be very surprised if we get next week. But like, look, I'm not trying to be that guy, so we'll see. Hopefully, but anyways, even if we don't get it, we'll always have the episodes out for you guys sooner or later. Thank you very much for listening. Baby, thank you for coming back.
Yeah,
Get some sleep. It's been a long election night.
I'll do my best. I still have to pick up
Imagine,
the pieces.
so Shiv has had that fight with her husband, then losing the presidency and her family's trust, and then her father's funeral. 72 straight hours. That's 3 straight days.
And the fact that Matt might drop her. I actually think that's a real thing that could happen.
That would destroy Eddie. That's a long period of time. Anyway, okay. Thank you very much for listening. Rich. Yeah, check out. At least she's rich. She will be fine. Check out our Barry episode. I joined Obiora and Jerry for that one. That was fun. Barry's also wrapping up. And then, obviously, Ebube continues to...
Moonlight and Ted Lasso. Yeah.
Yes.
Jeez.
So check that out. Yellow Jackets will continue to do that with Dumebi and Farida as we approach the finale of that as well. And then Love and Death, we approach the finale of that as well. So, yeah. Please check those episodes out and join us. Oh, of course, please check out Priscilla and Jess's Is This Cinema, a podcast which Haja described as actually pretty good.
Which is high praise from Haja.
Yeah. So, she's never said that about this podcast. So, like,
honestly, I was like, just enjoying that. I saw that. I was like, oh, wow. Okay, cool.
But anyway, yeah, thank you guys for listening. And join us next week when we'll be joined by my own president, Conor Wright. No, sorry, Daniel Kaluuya. Bye, guys.
Oh, my God.